Hello, my name is Justin Thomas, and I'd like to spend these next 5 to 8 minutes talking to you about my ideas on what I think leadership really is. Specifically, I want to start tying ideas to this term authentic leadership that I think can really add that extra dimension of what makes a good leader a great leader. Leadership is one of the most subjective topics that people can talk about. Everyone has very different views on what it means to be a great leader. I think, simply put, a leader is somebody who can get people to do things that they need them to do. Now, that's very bare bones idea of what leadership is, but when you really boil it down to its fundamentals, it's just one person getting somebody else to do things that they need them to do. General Montgomery actually has a great quote about leadership. He says, "My own definition of leadership is the capacity and the will to rally men and women to a common purpose and the character which inspires confidence." I really like this quote for quite a few different things. I think one of the biggest things is the character which inspires confidence. Without being a leader that has character, essentially you are like a house without a foundation. You are a figurehead that people are afraid to follow because they don't know who you are. And I think that's really where authentic leadership comes in. My definition of authentic leadership means people know who you are and what you stand for, and they know you won't waver from being that person. Some of my own experiences in leadership have come, I have realized that being authentic has been really the best way for me to motivate people to do things that I needed them to do and to lead in the most effective way. One of the biggest traits I think that authentic leadership kind of encapsulates is the idea of relatability. In simplest terms, people like to follow leaders that they like. I think that when I know when I like somebody who is my leader and I know them as a person and I genuinely like them, I am more willing to do things that I don't like because they've asked me to do them. And I think that's really important. And I think as a leader, you're almost immediately sunk and you have been, it's almost impossible to get things done when people don't like you. Granted, you should, as a follower, even if a leader's telling you to do things you don't like, it's your job to do what the leader is telling you to do. But to really inspire your subordinates means you need to relate to them. You need to make them like you as a person. And I think the best way to do that is, like I said, relatability. So growing up in high school, I was involved in many different kinds of clubs. I was always, doing quite a bit of everything, from choir to band to football to baseball, engineering to, theater, all that kind of stuff. And what I found is that I knew I knew a little bit about like a whole lot of things. Where that helped me is when I was put, in a group or put in charge of something and I needed to get these people to get things done. I found myself very easily being able to connect personally with each individual. And it typically meant connecting with them in something different between each of them. And as a leader, if you're able to take the time to make those kind of connections, when you have an individual relationship with each of your subordinates, they don't see you as the leader of a group. They see you as someone who is working with and for them. And I think that's extremely important when you're trying to get positive motivation out of your subordinates. Being relatable to your subordinates is what being authentic really means. They want you to be yourself, but they want you to understand them. And I think that is often missed when people talk about leadership, because often people talk about leadership, they talk about how you need to be a very commanding, upfront, demanding, and very stern individual. And I think sometimes leadership gets a bad rep for being, overbearing and over demanding. And I think if people took more time to look at themselves and decide who they are, they would be better able to understand who their subordinates are. And in turn, by better understanding your subordinates, you have a better opportunity of getting things done. Authentic leadership comes from knowing yourself first, which means it's imperative that leaders deliberately focus on figuring out who they are as a leader and just as a person in general. I feel like this is one of those things that's also looked over. People typically are put into leadership positions and haven't done that analysis on themselves and understanding how they operate as a person. And when you don't know yourself, your subordinates know that. It's obvious to them. In closing, I'd like to say that being authentic has always had the best results for me as a leader. When I have tried to be someone I am not, or emulate a leadership style that is not me, it has almost always gone poorly. Finding your own leadership style is part of being authentic. Even if you are a more stern and cold style leadership, if that is who you are, and you are able to relate that to your subordinates, you will do a great job. If being a more one-on-one, softer, relatable leader is who you are, and your subordinates understand that, you will do a great job. At the end of the day, leadership is just getting people to do what you're asking them to do. And the best way to do that is be who you are, understand who you are, and be able to relate that person to the people that you are leading. Thank you.